Hello everybody and welcome to Tiger Tales, a place you'll find stories and fanfictions written and read to you by your host, me, Tai Tiger. Usually, anyway. Today is another chapter by Cosplay Dude 637. So let me explain real quick. Cosplay Dude 637 has a podcast called Storytime with Cosplay Dude 637. He does exactly what we do here. He writes fanfictions and stories and then turns them into an audio format for you guys to listen to. He just uploads them on Spotify. So here's the thing. He kind of needs a clean slate. He's not exactly getting rid of Storytime. Maybe he will in the future, but right now he's just needing a break, but he doesn't want to get rid of these stories. So I offered to place them on Tiger Tales. So this is the last chapter that we've ported from Storytime to Tiger Tales, that is Shadowhunters. So any chapter after this one that comes out is primarily and solely Tiger Tales only. That being said, though, let's dive in with Shadowhunters.
Shadowhunters, Blood Ties. Chapter 5. Newbies and Fangs. Mikhail, Angelique, Xander, and Ruthie were all new Shadowhunters and new members of the New York Institute. So, when they were sent on their first patrol, they were ecstatic. Covered in head-to-toe gear, the young Nephilim took to the streets of New York. But after an hour, they were very underwhelmed by the lack of action that they thought they would see. This is what brought them to the Hunter's Moon. The Hunter's Moon was a downworld bar. It was a slow night for the moon. The place was very empty. Only a few werewolves and a fae were there. "Man, we should not be here," Angelique says, looking over the room. "Chill, Ange. We are Shadowhunters. We go where we want," Mikhail says, puffing out his chest. "Dude, that is so wrong. Just because we are Nephilim now does not mean we're God," Xander replies. Mikhail just waves his hand and walks up to the bar. The man behind the bar was a 7-foot-tall, bald black man with dark green eyes by the name of Frankincense.
"Kid, you lost?"
Frankincense asks in a low voice. "Identify yourself, downworlder," Mikhail demands. "I am a Shadowhunter, and you must answer me," he adds. The whole bar bursts out in laughter. All but the Shadowhunters.
"Kid, you're joking, right? Run on home to your mommy,"
Frankincense says, laughing. Mikhail's face goes red, and in a flash, his wrist was up, and the claws were coming out of his gauntlet. The werewolf jumped to their feet, and their eyes started glowing, as does Frankincense's. Xander walks up and pulls Mikhail back, throwing him to the floor. "That's enough. Angie, get him out of here," Xander snaps. Angelique nods, and her and Ruthie drag Mikhail out. "I am sorry, sir. He should have known better. We are on our first patrol, and he is just itching for a fight. That being said, what he did was out of line, and I will be talking to our Institute head about what he did," Xander says, holding out his hand to Frankincense.
"Tactfully said, young one. I am Frankincense, but you can call me Frank."
Frank shakes Xander's hand. Xander nods and heads for the door.
"Hey kid, if you're looking for something to do, you may want to look into the vamps down at the pier,"
the one fae says. Xander smiles and nods as he walks out of the door. As soon as Xander has come out of the door and it has clicked shut, he finds a pair of claws in his face. "How dare you!" Mikhail shouts. Xander quickly ducks down and sweep kicks Mikhail's feet, and in one motion draws one of his chakrams and has it pointed at Mikhail's throat, with his left leg holding Mikhail's one gauntleted hand down. "I would do it again. You were out of line in there, and you bet I will be talking to Jason Clary about your lack of care. Now, if you're done acting like a mundane brat, I got us a lead," Xander barks. Ruthie whistles. "Whoa, man." "What's it going to be?" Xander asks, never taking his eyes off Mikhail. Mikhail slowly nods. Xander steps back and lets Angelique help Mikhail up. "When did you get so good, man? You were never this good back at the academy," Mikhail asks. "Or maybe you're just too cocky," Ruthie says with a giggle. "What's the lead, Xand?" Angelique inquires. "There may be some vamp trouble down at the pier," Xander replies, and starts heading that way, clipping his chakram back to his side. The others exchange looks and run after him. Back in the bar, the group of wolves were laughing. "Irvan, You know, you sent them after some of Lily's clan, right? One wolf says. The Fae looks over at them and smiles evilly.
Now, they did not ask what clan the vampires were from,
Irvon says.
Hello everybody, I apologise for butting in on what you're listening to, but I wanted to introduce you guys to a brand new podcast called the Tiger Nexus Podcast. I'm Tai Tiger, and I'm the host. I'm mostly known for the Tiger Tales YouTube channels, where you'll find stories and fanfictions that I write and read to you guys. I'm also a co-founder of the Three Range Bro Studios, but I wanted to dive into this whole podcasting thing. I'm a content creator, and I adore making content of all sorts of varieties, and I want to interview people that enjoy and make content as well. And we're talking about all sorts of things, from TikToks to YouTube to story writing to storytelling, podcasts, movies and TV shows, all forms of content you can think of. I want to interview people about. So there's going to be lots of different variety. So make sure you check out the Tiger Nexus Podcast on YouTube and Spotify.
Once the young Shadowhunters get to the pier, there were 2 vampires following some mundane fishermen, 1 female and 1 male vampire. Xander had signaled for Mikhail and Angelique to circle around. Ruthie drew 2 Adamus scalpels from her wristband. Xander nods at her and she moves in like lightning, strategically cutting the ankle tendons of the female vampire. Ruthie quickly moves to the vampire's throat and holds one of her scalpels to it. I would not move if I were you, honey, Ruthie says with a smirk. At the same time, Mikhail and Angelique attacked the male vampire. However, the male vampire did not go down so easily. He kicked Angelique in the stomach. She doubled over in pain, and the vampire whirled and attacked Mikhail with a right hook. Mikhail flicked out his left wrist, and his claw blades extended right as the vampire's punch came from Mikhail. The claws sheared off the vampire's hand at the wrist. Mikhail was covered in blood. Regaining her composure, Angelique swept the vampire's leg out from under him with her staff. The male vampire hit the ground hard, knocking the back of its head. Angelique placed one end of her staff at its throat. Okay, hold, Xander says, walking out of the shadows. Why were you after the fisherman? Xander asks, looking down at the male vampire. The vampire just spits blood at him. Xander bends down on his knees and looks at the vampire, and with a clear face and a calm voice says, Here's the deal, my friend. Mikhail here would like nothing more than to kill you and your lady friend over there. Now me, I just want to get the answers I need and hand you over to the clave. So, the question is, what do you want? The vampire looks from Mikhail to Xander and then back to Xander. My name is Derek, and she is Helena, Derek says. Aw man, he wants to play nice, Mikhail says with a sigh, flicking his wrist, and his claw blades retract back into its gauntlet. Now, I will ask you again, why were you after the fishermen? Xander says kindly. Don't tell him. They have no proof we were doing anything wrong, Helena says with a evil hiss. Ruthie added a little pressure to her scalpel, and a bit of blood dripped from Helena's neck. Xander holds up his hand, and Ruthie backs off a little. Just then, there is a blood-curdling female scream, and a young Asian woman comes running out at them, her fangs bared. Xander jumps to his feet and draws his chakrams, but before the woman could get to them, there was a flash of white light, and the woman stopped cold, a seraph blade at her throat. She looks over to see Jace standing there with a smile. Now, Lily, I think we need an answer from your clan members before you kill my new recruits, he says. Lily? As in Lily Chan? Angelique asks. Yes, child, that is me, and you are unlawfully attacking 2 of my clan, Lily replies. No, ma'am, we are not. They were stalking 2 fishermen, Xander replied. Derek, tell the Shadowhunters what you were really doing, Lily demanded. Derek looked at her with fear in his eyes and shook his head no. You will answer the question, she commanded. Fine, we were hungry. The bag shit is sick, Derek shouted. Jace lowered his sword and looked at Lily. You see, my Shadowhunters were doing their jobs, and now we will hand them over to the Clave. Over to Alec, Jace says. Lily sighs and nods. You can't, Helena shouts. I can, and I am. You broke the law, and now you must pay for that, Lily says. Angelique pulls her staff back, and Ruthie gets off of Helena. Mikhail cuffs them. Miss Chan, we will inform the Alliance once the Clave reaches a verdict, Angelique says, now holding onto Helena's arms. Please, call me Lily, and thank you for not killing them on the spot. You are one effective team, Lily says, with a Fangs-filled smile. We are no team, Mikhail smarts off. Oh, yes you are. I'm officially making you one. Ruthie, you're the field medic. I read your file and see that you are very adept at triage medicine. Angelique, you'll be the Institute's ambassador, Jace delegated. I will lead them, Mikhail interrupts. Like hell you will. Mikhail, you're a loose cannon, a major hothead. Xander will be your leader. I've watched you guys from when you entered the Hunter's Moon. He is calm under pressure and is strategic, Jace explains. Sir, I'm no leader. I just do my job as a shadow hunter, Xander says softly. Even more reason to make you the leader. Those are my orders. Now, get the fugitives back to the Institute, Jace orders. Yes, sir, they all say and head back to the Institute. Not a bad group you got there, Jace, Lily says. No, they're not. Maybe they will finally take the Clave in the right direction, Jace replies. This podcast is a production of the Three Ranger Bros Studios, in association with Zio to Hero, the podcast.
This story was written and read to you by Cosplay Dude 637. More about him in the outro.
This podcast is a production of the Three Ranger Bros Studios, in association with Zio to Hero, the podcast.
And there we have it, guys. Thank you very much for listening to this story. If you've enjoyed this story, then you might want to check out all of my Tiger Tales channels. I'm going to give you a quick rundown. There's Tiger Tales, the first and the original. This is a place where you'll find stories and fanfictions diving into all sorts of fandoms, including Power Rangers, Pokemon, The Walking Dead, Marvel, DC, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and so much more. Tiger Tales The Lost Stories follows the same suit, but all the stories on that channel are in the first person perspective. Then there's Tiger Tales Game Over, a channel where all of the storylines are related to video games in some way or another. Then we have Tiger Tales X, where I write official crossovers that aren't needed but are very wanted, and crossovers I thought might work. Then, of course, we have Tiger Tales Mysterious Origins. This is the YouTube channel dedicated to my own original stories. All the stories on this channel are original and my own, and it also answers questions on certain characters throughout my stories, like William Cranston, Mr. Pocket, and Ace from the Color Matrix. If you've enjoyed these storylines, then please make sure you check out the following podcasts. Storytime with Cosplay Dude 637, Power Rangers Universe 19, Sailor Moon E, and The Order. And make sure you check out 2 YouTube channels, Nostalgia Time and the One Piece audio drama. They are all written and read to you and edited by Cosplay Dude 637, my Parabatai and best friend. Then, make sure you check out the podcast Nerds Through Comics, which is directed by Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger. This is where he adapts comic books into audio dramas and also uploads his own original Power Ranger storylines. We are the Three Ranger Bros Studios, a collaborative project, and we are all voice actors and helpers of each other's stuff, so make sure you go check us out. We're in association with the Zio to Hero podcast, so a huge shout out to Billy and Jim, the co-hosts, and of course the podcast and the community that they lead. If we're shouting out podcasts, I have to shout out Jared, the host of If You Give a Damn podcast. Make sure you check it out because he interviews some fantastic guests, from wrestlers to voice actors and the such. And of course, if we're talking podcasts, I have to mention my own, the Tiger Nexus podcast, where I interview content creators and geeks alike. A huge shout out to all my supporters and followers, my voice actors, the people who co-write my chapters, and the sorts. So huge thank you, and of course, a big shout out to A-Crown. Specifically him, because he helps me a lot with some of my stories, specifically the colour matrix and the chapters that go on Tai Tales Game Over. Thank you very much guys for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe to the channels, like the videos, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. With that being said, I shall see you guys in the next one.
That before we can...
Don't touch my Pringles.